an intense but productive day of strategic planning. After hearing from a diverse group of stakeholders, providers, parents, surveying the early learning landscape, analyzing 5 years of data, here are the strategic goals that the board has identified that will help us deliver on the promise over the next 5 years. These ambitious goals are only achievable by continuing to build partnerships in the community, and many of our partners have joined us here today, and I want to take the opportunity to recognize them. We talk about every family having a successful preschool experience as one of our goals. We are partnering with Beach Acres Parenting Center to provide that support and opportunities for parent education, K-Spark at Best Point and the Mayo Home to ensure that the special needs of every child are met. When you look at how high quality has to drive all of our preschool endeavors as our second goal, we always appreciate the support of our coaching partners at both 4C for Children and Learning Grove. We appreciate the Greater Cincinnati Foundation and the Black Giving Circle for the support that they've provided to help our family child care providers build capacity. And we do have an outreach, marketing, and publication workshop set for the second Saturday, I think in 2023, thanks to the KDDK Legacy Group that is driving that business support for us. We also have worked with 4C for Children in Cincinnati State in helping us to recruit and retain early childhood professionals and build that talent pipeline, because we know that is essential to not only reaching high quality but maintaining high quality. And we always look to community partners but help us support our student and families. CAA has been an absolutely great partner in that. We also want to recognize the African American Chamber of Commerce, who supports our Back to School Jam with PB&J and our musical journey, so that every child who is part of the Cincinnati Preschool Promise Network gets a backpack, a Smart Start backpack that fills it with things that we know they can use outside of the classroom, because every environment is a learning environment. We can't neglect to say thank you to Cincinnati Public Schools, who we count on for partnerships, so thank you, Vera, and please share our thanks with the full board, and we'll be looking to you for that third goal and making sure that we have that fiscal flexibility to meet all the needs of the community. I would be remiss if I didn't say thank you to all of our community providers and acknowledge again Ms. Robin Perkins, who is here representing our provider council and the hundreds throughout the network that made Cincinnati Preschool Promise possible. And she is the Family Child Care Provider of the Year as recognized by Swayze at their annual conference. So thank you, Ms. Ryan, for joining us today. Also a thank you to my board of managers, 14 members in the community who came together to say we're going to make this work, who provide me with guidance, insight, and the flexibility to be innovative, and the support to make mistakes, to recover from those, and continue to drive us forward. So I say thank you for that. And most importantly, to the families who trust us and count on us to be partners in providing a solid education for their children and their most valuable treasure. We hope that you're inspired by what you've heard today, that you're ready to get involved. And by we, I have to acknowledge the members of the Cincinnati Preschool Promise staff. If you're here, please wave your hand. Hector, Tanya, Kenitra, without them, we couldn't make this happen. And also, Laura Carr. Laura, stand up. As you all know, we've had a shift in our marketing and communications. The publications that you see today, this huge book of information, our impact report, we thank Laura Carr for that in partnership with Kenitra Mathis, but Laura has been our leader, our taskmaster, to make sure that we get this done and the beautiful publication that you see today. This is the foundation. It is our annual report. It is our year 5 evaluation. It is our executive summary. It is the master agreement annual report that has the high-level data that we submit to CPS every year. It talks about just our impact numbers so that you have an infographic so that all of these data and statistics can roll off of your tongue. As the mayor said to me yesterday, you're ready, aren't you? All day, every day. Preschool with those numbers and that impact. So you'll see a snapshot of that in here as well. And the most important piece is you'll see a tab that talks about getting involved. We need you. We want you to be a part of the Preschool Promise. Just scan the QR code anytime so that we can get you engaged as social media mavens for us, as part of our outreach team, as marketing matchmakers, and of course, promise readers like we'll have tonight. So we thank you all for for being a part of the Cincinnati Preschool Promise, celebrating what was a vision for me as the first Cincinnati Preschool Promise Day, and ask you and implore you and know that together we can continue the transformation that's happened in this community so that every child in Cincinnati has an opportunity to thrive.
Any great organization that's making progress, having impact, has to have a great leader. Can we have a round of applause?
I'm not going to go through the whole proclamation, but it's an honor to be here representing the City of Cincinnati, City Council, Mayor Aftap Piraval, and just proclaiming this to be Cincinnati Preschool Promise Day, which, you know, all of the whereases speak to everything we know to be true, and what Dr. Owens just talked about, which is how significant preschool is. 2 years of quality preschool is a difference maker in the lives of children, and what it was like for this whole community to come together. Right? People from the business community, labor, community organizations, the Cincinnati Public Schools, all of these community providers, faith leaders, rallied around this idea that every single child in this city deserved 2 years of quality preschool. And then we made it happen, becoming one of the first cities in the country to provide 2 years of quality preschool. And so just two quick things. One is it was, besides my children, my family, it's the most important thing I've ever been a part of, hands down. And two, I am so grateful to this board, to Chara and the entire staff. Chara's done such an amazing job. So has the team. Very little turnover. I mean, folks have been there from day one. And to CPS, the board, Vera, everyone who has made this work over the course of the last 5 years, these are your results. And I have not seen the results. I've heard some top line feedback in terms of what to expect, but you all did this. And for that, I am eternally grateful. So thank you. Congratulations, Shara. Congratulations to all of you. Happy Cincinnati Preschool Promise Day.
So thank you so much, Greg, for coming to do this, and we're so appreciative of being recognized on our first Cincinnati Preschool Promise Day, and it has been full with the celebration. We started with preschool chat earlier today with a group sharing why they love the Cincinnati Preschool Promise, so you'll be able to see that on Facebook coming up soon. We'll end tonight, Preschool Promise Day at 7 o'clock with a brand new promise reader. Dr. Christine Gibson will be doing a nighttime reading for all of our preschoolers to tune into on Facebook Live again. And this special meeting today where we've invited you all to the release of our annual report for 2021-2022. This launches our season. We start going on our speaking tour to share results. Our team is passing out this annual report right now. So, go ahead, Hector. You will see in this report our impact statements, our highline numbers that Greg talked about, and the things that we are so very proud of. And that is, this year we served more than 900 students with tuition assistance. 73% of our preschoolers showed up at kindergarten ready to learn. We have 23 preschools that reached high quality, and 93% of our parents said they would not have been able to afford the full cost of preschool but for the Cincinnati Preschool Promise. You will also see in this annual report our lens on equity that we continue to be focused on, Cincinnati Preschool Promise Plus, the extra things that we're doing in addition to tuition assistance to support early learning, a very detailed list on page 15 of all of our community partners, And on page 27 begins the list of our more than 280 community providers who make this happen. Also the stories of our parents and our families who bring the Cincinnati Preschool Promise to life. We are happy to share this with you. We invite you to read it, to look online on the electronic version, and to invite us to your community, stakeholders, friends, and colleagues, where we will do this live presentation personally for you and your group to get everybody excited about the Cincinnati Preschool Promise. In addition to our annual report, each year we do an external evaluation that has an objective look at our impact, our effectiveness, and our program delivery. Our evaluation partner for year 5 again is Innovations in Community Research and Program Evaluation from the Division of Behavioral Medicine and Clinical Psychology at Cincinnati Children's Hospital. I would like to introduce you to our evaluation leads who will take us through what our year 5 evaluation looks like. That is Dr. Monica Mitchell, Dr. Aubrey Culp, and Peter Petronio. Let's welcome them.
Thank you very much. So, good evening, everybody. Good evening. And we're very excited as well to give this report. So, we've been pleased to serve as the evaluator for four of the last 5 years of the Preschool Promise. And just to give a little bit of background on us for those who don't know us, we've been doing evaluation for the past more than 20 years, but we started doing the evaluation of kindergarten readiness in 2004 when the kindergarten readiness assessment first came out. So we produced about 18 kindergarten readiness assessment reports. And it wasn't long after we started getting the results when people started to say, these results are great, but what are we actually going to do about them? And that's what makes today especially good, is that when we give the results today, it's a way of saying, hey, we are actually doing something about these results. Because one thing we found with kindergarten readiness is that the kids who were least likely to be ready were kids who, the kind of kids that Cincinnati Preschool serves, which are kids who are most in need, kids who are least likely to be in preschool. So you'll kind of see that theme throughout, especially the first part of the presentation. So it feels really good that we as a community are coalescing our efforts to address some of the greatest needs with respect to preschool and kindergarten readiness. So I want to start off by introducing my team. We have a great team. Most of the members of my team have been part of Innovations for at least 10 years and some more than 20 years when we first got started. But I do have 2 of my team members here today that I'm really proud to. 2.5. Grace is here. She's a student intern who works with us. So you'll hear from Peter Petronio and Aubrey Culp, and then you'll hear from one of our student interns. But I do not want to dismiss the hard work that goes into this particular evaluation from our whole team. It's all hands on deck project, and those persons are also listed at the bottom of the screen. I also want to mention that we work with some very seasoned consultants to do our very best work on this project as well, including Crystal Kendrick from the Voice of Your Customer, who helps us with the formatting and professional layout of these reports, and Dr. Jennifer Williams, who helps us with the more than 20 focus groups that we do for our qualitative report, and also Dr. Kalana Hinder, who is a member of our team and now works with us on a consulting basis. So we produced 3 reports as part of the year 5 evaluation. So it's an overall year 5 evaluation report, which is a very quantitative set of tools that we use to really think about the rigor of how we're looking at the outcomes of Cincinnati Preschool Promise. But we also do the qualitative report, where we want to ensure that we're getting the voice of multiple stakeholders through this evaluation, and we involve teachers, providers, parents, prospective parents, so those parents who we may not have been able to reach, but we want to reach. And we also include staff members as well. And then we produce a third report, which is the wage analysis report. And that report provides us the most up-to-date economics on, what teachers, preschool teachers are making relative to national and local benchmarks and relative to other professions in the field. And Peter produces that report. When you look at the table of contents, you can see that the contents of these reports is very rich. Too rich for us to go over every single detail in today's presentation. So for the sake of time, what we'll focus on for today are really the most emerging trends and innovative aspects of the work that CPP is doing. So really the new elements of the report. But I do encourage you to read all 3 of these reports at your leisure. So we've divided the presentation up, again, to focus on the high-level outcomes of the evaluation. I'll be presenting the first 2 parts of the presentation, which is the kindergarten readiness and preschool progress, as well as special programs. These are programs that have been pilots this year. And then I'm going to hand it off to Peter, who's going to talk about reach and access, and then Aubrey will close us out with the qualitative report summary. So I'm going to start off by talking about kindergarten readiness and preschool progress. And as I mentioned, it's really rewarding to talk about this because I'm not just talking about, here's the state of kindergarten readiness, which I've done that presentation many times. I see people in the room who've been in the audience when I'm giving that report. But I'm really going to talk about, what are the outcomes and impact for those children who are in CPP. So we look at this, and it was when we were determining the best methodology for this, we really had to think about, how are we going to measure this? So we use the kindergarten readiness assessment that Cincinnati Public Schools gives to kindergartners every fall. And then we also had to determine what would be an appropriate comparison group for kids in Cincinnati Public Schools. So we match every kid in Cincinnati Public Schools with a kid who's not in CPP based on gender, on race, and based on socioeconomic status to provide the most fair comparison. And we really look at the socioeconomic status using a measure called social factors. And I won't go into a lot of detail because it's one that I've described before, but also it can take a long time to describe it, so I'm just going to try to describe it as simply as I can. Social factors is not just only looking at the socioeconomic status of a child, but it looks at environmental factors in which the child may be, their living, their geography is based on. So it looks at things like the percent of population with a high school diploma, looks at housing density units with 1 or more persons. It looks at other factors. So we really like this measure. It's been out there for a long time, for about 4 or 5 decades. And this year we updated it based on the 2019 census data. The 2020 census data wasn't available when we got ready to do the coding. Next year it will be updated based on the 2020 census data. So when we do the comparison group, both of the comparison groups are as similar as they possibly can be. So this way, when we look at the KRA data, we can, it will be more likely that when we find differences, or if we don't find differences, it will be in fact due to the fact that the kids are in preschool, and as a result of them having access to preschool because of their CPP status. And when we looked at that, I'm going to describe the outcomes a few different ways. The first way is we looked at statistical significance. So we found a statistically significant difference between the 2 groups, which is great. We also looked at odds ratio, and kids who were in the CPP tuition assistance group were much more likely to perform well, more highly on the overall kindergarten readiness and on the language and literacy. And basically, when you look at these numbers, another way to say it is for every 100 kids who met the readiness outcome, there were another 38 or 39 kids who performed well in the CPP group compared to the non-CPP group. And approximately 42 kids who met the benchmark on the language and literacy. So that's what the odds ratio does, and that's how we know that there was statistical significance. Another way to look at it is to look at it just using the descriptive data, where you can see that when you compare the CPP group and the non-CPP group, you can look at those last two categories, so the blue and the purple, which are the highest in the demonstrating and the approaching, so the highest two levels of readiness. And you can see that we had more of the CPP kids in both of those levels compared to the non-CPP group. And same thing with the on-track. So the on-track group, again, had more participants in the on-track group compared to the non-CPP. And again, while the bars may look at, that 4-point difference, or in this case, there was a 10-point difference. Again, looking at those odds ratios, we're talking about, 30, 39, or 42 kids for every 100 kids. And when you're talking about 3,700 kids in a district, that's a lot more kids who would be ready for kindergarten, based on those measures. We can also look at it this way. So when you're talking about SES and SES1 and SES2 levels, which are the kids who are most in need. So most in need because these kids who, based on the definitions that I described earlier, they're least likely to have those enrichment factors in their neighborhood. These are the kids who are also more likely to qualify for CPP, least likely to have access to preschool. If it weren't for CPP, you can see that the gap is much higher in terms of the difference between CPP and non-CPP kids. So now we're talking about 15-point differences, 20-point differences. And that therein lies the extreme differential impact of CPP for those kids at highest need. We see this the same with the language and literacy subtests. Again, we're seeing that high differential impact for SES1 and 2. So now we're talking about 13 percentage points and 15 percentage points for SES1 and 2, where we have the most kids who are enrolled in CPP and who are at highest need. If we're talking about kids who are from underrepresented minority groups, again, these are kids who we know are going to have the highest need, who are going to be more likely to enroll in preschool if it's not for CPP tuition dollars, based on the literature, based on what we know about our community. We're also seeing those higher differential impacts. So 14 points for African Americans between the CPP and non-CPP groups, 17 for Hispanic, and 17 for multiracial. So again, therein lies the need and the differential impact for CPP. And we see the same for language and literacy. So 12, 8, and 4 points for the three groups that I mentioned previously. So this is really just a summary slide. I'm not going to go over the summary slide because I just presented the findings, but this just summarizes it, and this summary is also provided in the report as well. But again, just the higher impact for SES1 and 2, so those who are in the lower social factors group, lower SES groups, multiracial groups, and then overall, you're seeing that CPP program having that impact, and that is a trend that we have seen for the time that we've evaluated this program. We've evaluated the kindergarten readiness outcomes for all 5 years of this program. Preschooler progress, this is a new area that we added to the evaluation last year. We're really, really proud that we've been able to do this, because before, we had to wait for the kids to get to kindergarten to say, hey, you know, this is how they're doing when they get to kindergarten. Now we can look at a more proximal outcome of impact of how the kids are doing. And the reason why we're able to do this is because we've developed partnerships with preschool programs, including CAA, CPS, and others, to be able to do data sharing. And I call it building a data warehouse, which is great, because we need that data warehouse that can look at a developmental continuum of kids from the time that they enroll in preschool all the way up to kindergarten and beyond. You know, it won't be long until we're looking at third grade outcomes and hopefully follow these kids all the way to graduation. So thank you to the partners who are participating in this. It's really helped us in our understanding, and it's also provided some additional positive data with the impact that CPP is having with preschool kids. And the other thing that it's done is it's allowed us to look more holistically at kids, so not just looking at overall school readiness or language and literacy. You know, now we're looking at social, emotional, physical, language, cognitive literacy, mathematics, and you can see from fall to spring the progress that we're seeing with preschool kids on each of these measures. And you can see, you know, the increase anywhere from, you know, 20, 30, 40% in various categories. And for those of you who have been following this data, you remember last year, you know, we did see some areas of opportunity, for example, in the math area, where we shared that data back with the programs, and now we're seeing a little bit more consistency across all the areas. So I'm going to pause here for questions before I go on to the next section, which will be the special program section. Yes, Dr. Holmes.
When you look at any data from fall to spring, you expect to see that same.
As Shara said, there's always a CPP plus, and the CPP plus is what are those pilots that CPP is doing to think about new and innovative ways to ensure that preschool children are learning given the dynamic environment in which preschool is happening. I'm going to hand it off to Grace, who is our summer student, who is going to let us know about her experience with peanut butter and jam.
Up to you. Up to you. We want to make sure you have it. It's a mask for the microphone. Okay.
Hello everyone, my name is Grace Elliott and I'm a junior at the University of Cincinnati. I'm currently studying psychology and minority health. This summer I had the awesome opportunity to participate in the Summer Undergraduate Research Fellowship through Innovations at Cincinnati Children's. The SERV program offers a chance for undergraduate students to receive hands-on experience conducting research and learning the ins and outs of the research field and the research profession. At the end of the summer, there's this big research symposium where students present their research to fellow SERV students and a diverse population of researchers at Cincinnati Children's and the University of Cincinnati. For my project, I wanted to look at the impact of peanut butter and jam on preschoolers' school progress. Peanut Butter and Jam is an interactive music program created to teach and enrich the lives of children. The program is designed to allow children to foster skills like listening, following multiple step directions, working in a group, and building their memory through singing songs, playing with musical instruments, and dancing. A little bit of background on this project is that in 2021, Cincinnati Preschool Promise partnered with Peanut Butter and Jam and piloted like this music, PB and Jam session in 6 preschools. The program took place in the classroom for a total of 30 hours over a 30-week period. Previous research suggests that music training can improve executive functioning, academic skills, and can significantly influence academic success and performance later on. The impact of programs like Peanut Butter and Jam lines up perfectly with Cincinnati Preschool Promises' mission to help ensure preschoolers have access to high-quality preschools and are prepared for school. Now a little bit of the methodology and evaluation of the project, which consisted of 2 parts, the TS Gold Assessment and the Program Impact Surveys. The TS Gold, or Teaching Strategies Gold Assessment, is a formative assessment that is administered multiple times per year to document a preschooler's development level and the growth through multiple domains of learning. Some of the domains are social, emotional, literacy, mathematics, language, physical, and as well as cognitive. The students can receive 1 of 3 scores: below expectations, meeting expectations, and exceeding expectations. A total of 26 Peanut Butter and Jam participants had fall and spring TS Gold assessments, which were used for the program evaluation. For the program impact surveys, 11 teachers and directors were surveyed regarding their observed behaviors of preschoolers who attended these PB&J sessions. Participants were asked if the PB&J program made a positive impact on their preschoolers on the domains of the TS Gold. Their surveys were used to gauge the perceived impact of the program on their preschoolers. Now for the fun part, the results. Program impact surveys showed that across all domains, 96% of preschool providers and teachers observed an improvement in all of these categories. Specifically, 96% of survey respondents reported an improvement in their preschoolers' social, emotional, and cognitive development. Common themes from the open-ended survey items included the development of listening skills and the importance of group activities, not only for learning, but also for socialization. Here's a quote from one of the preschool providers. Peanut Butter and Jam sessions have meant joy to the children's faces, opportunities for the children to learn to follow multiple step directions, using song and moving in non-traditional ways. It has also helped to calm the children and has helped them learn how to work with others, especially with sharing and taking turns. For the Teaching Strategies Gold Assessment, a parrot samples t-test and frequency distribution were conducted. Participating preschoolers made improvements from fall to spring in social, emotional, language, cognitive, literacy, and mathematics domains. There was a statistically significant improvement in the cognitive and mathematics domain. Overall, these findings align with previous research that suggests music programs like Peanut Butter and Jam can have a positive impact on aspects of children's cognitive development, social development, and skills important for academic performance. Throughout this whole process, I learned so much about research, and I just wanted to say, my heart is filled with so much joy and happiness to have this opportunity to see firsthand the positive impact that people can have on others. I look forward to seeing the program continue and see how it impacts preschoolers in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Grace. And this is a picture of her poster, and you can see the judges' comments, which said that her presentation was fantastic. She loved it. I believe Grace got a 47 points out of 50 on her poster, so congratulations. And I won't go over, this is just another way of showing some of the outcomes for the kids in the PB&J pilot. These kids started off, Dr. Owens, you can see here that, oftentimes there might be different profiles, even though we do expect improvement from pre to post. The kids in these classrooms, the pilot classrooms, they actually started off pretty high, and through this pilot, they ended up even higher. It's very hard sometimes when you have kids who start off high to get them even higher. That can be very challenging, but you can see what happened with this particular group. And this is just a picture. We also continued the extended learning pilot that was started last year. And this is an opportunity for kids in preschool to continue throughout the summer. So you can see there that we had about 487 children who were enrolled in the summer of 2021. And this was a 35% increase in enrollment from the prior year. And the biggest finding from this particular pilot is that kids in SCS1 had the biggest impact, and especially those with 90% attendance. So you can see that with that group, there were almost 90% who were approaching or demonstrating. So you can see here that big green bar, those who attended 90% had the biggest impact on this program compared to the non-ELS kids. So that was the biggest finding from this particular pilot, is that that's the group that was most responsive to this particular intervention. So if this pilot continues, I think trying to enroll those kids, and probably that's the group that's most sensitive to having the summer lapse, maybe because of they're not going to have, they may not have as many resources during the summer, for example. The other groups were not as sensitive. We didn't see as much of a difference with the other groups, but the SES one we did. So those are the summary of the two pilots that we had. You know, those findings for the peanut butter and jam, and also for the ELS. Just want to pause for any questions.
Can you hear me all right? Can we hear it?
Yeah.
All right. So the number of preschoolers receiving tuition assistance, that's community-based providers, increased from 760 preschoolers to 907 in 2021-22. And that is an increase of 19.3%. Enrollment experienced some setbacks the prior 2 years as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, but has since recovered in 2021-22. The total enrollment closer to.
Sorry, could you get a little closer to the mic?
Yes.
They're not hearing you in the back.
Is that better?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
Speak a little louder for us.
All right. All right. So enrollment experienced setbacks because of COVID-19, but since recovering in 2021-22 with a total enrollment close to pre-COVID. So here's a look at the expansion of the community-based TA provider network. These are providers that are approved to receive tuition assistance reimbursements if they are 3, 4, or 5-star rated on Ohio's Step Up Quality Rating System. And there were 139 TA providers active during 2021-22, amounting to a net increase of 25 TA providers. So here's another look at the expansion of the community-based TA provider network. In addition to illustrating the increase of TA providers over the years, you can see in the second column the number of TA providers located in quality gap neighborhoods. And quality gap neighborhoods are neighborhoods where the preschool age population exceeds the available supply of high-quality seats by 100 seats or more. In 2021-22, for instance, there were 76 TA providers in quality gap neighborhoods, making almost 55% of the community-based TA provider network. So this is a map of all the CPP community-based TA providers active in Cincinnati in 2021-22. The blue marks indicate the new preschools introduced to the TA provider network, while the yellow marks indicate the ones that were active the prior year as well. This map also illustrates how the providers were concentrated in quality gap neighborhoods. These are the regions shaded pink on the map. So quality improvement or QI providers are either unrated or have 1 or 2 star ratings. And these providers receive tangible support and coaching to improve quality, increase the number of high-quality preschool seats. CPP's network of approved QI providers was 87 during the 2021-22 academic year. And 23 of these converted to TA providers by the end of the school year upon earning a 3, 4, or 5 star rating. In this table, we can see that how CPP has assisted QI providers in the movement from quality to high-quality preschool. To date, 91 QI providers have converted to TA providers since the inception of CPP. And we can also see that the number of QI providers has been decreasing over the years as more and more convert to TA. And this is increasing the proportion of high-quality preschools in the CPP community provider network. The third column of this table shows the number of QI providers that have not converted to TA but are located in quality gap neighborhoods. In 2021-22, 33 of these QI providers were located in those neighborhoods. So these next slides provide a look at how the CPP community provider network has grown over the past 5 years. So we can see where the TA providers represented by the blue diamonds and the QI providers represented by the red dots were located each year with the total number of providers seen on the right. As we scroll for each year, we can visualize the growth of the network from year 1 to year 5. Here's another look at the 212 providers being served in 2021-22 by the CPP network. As of June 30th, this represents 3,622 quality and high-quality seats. And among these 212 providers, 109 are located in quality gap neighborhoods. So the following section is an update of our estimates of CPP's reaching access from last year's presentation. These are all 182 of the high-quality or 3 to 5 star preschool providers in Cincinnati as of 2020-21. This map includes CPP-TA preschools shown in blue, CPS shown in red, and other high-quality shown in green. These are ones outside the network. So in 2021-22, we see that the high-quality network has grown to 201% preschools overall, and at an increase of 19. Additionally, the combined total of CPP-TA preschools and CPS preschools make up nearly 91% of the high-quality preschool providers shown here. In 2016, RAND conducted a 10-year model for expected preschool participation in Cincinnati year over year. The model included the variables you see here, such as program access, eligibility requirements, public funding, quality structure, and demographics. And according to the 2020 American Community Survey 5-year estimates, there are 8,115 3 to 4-year-olds in the city of Cincinnati. 6,107 of those are estimated to be under 300% of the federal poverty level. Since CPP is going into year 6, we applied the RAND estimated participation rates for year 6 of their model to understand how many 3 to 4-year-olds under 300% FPL are expected to participate in the coming year. And this table shows the totals of the children by FPL and age, and coming to a grand total of 4,123, or 68% of the under 300% FPL population. As of this year, there are 3,622 quality and high-quality preschool seats within the CPP community provider network, according to provider-reported seat counts from their CPP applications. There are additional 2,185 high-quality preschool seats provided by CPS preschool providers, which comes to a grand total of 5,807 seats in the entire network. From this, we can understand that CPP can accommodate a target of 4,123 under 300% FPL preschoolers with the current provider network, including CPS. but that there's still room for growth and capacity for the larger population of 3 to 4-year-olds. So this year's approach we're considering for year 6, this is to better evaluate CPP's reach and access within the CPP footprint moving forward. Innovations in CPP establish working relationships with the Institute for Policy Research and Ohio Department of Job and Family Services for ODJFS. This partnership will help us more precisely measure CPP's reach, access, and opportunities in quality gap neighborhoods. We aim to estimate the 3 to 4-year-old populations by Cincinnati neighborhoods and estimate the number of high-quality seats available in those neighborhoods. We will also be utilizing relationships with our partners to estimate what proportion of the 3 to 4-year-old population are eligible for tuition assistance based on ODJFS, 2020 Census, and American Community Survey data. This information will help us determine areas within the CPP footprint with the most need high-quality seats. Pause for question.
Preschool Promise teacher, provider, and parent supports. So we conducted focus groups and administered surveys to stakeholders to give them a voice and to hear what they think about their Preschool Promise experience. We talked to them about a lot of different topics, but today we're going to look at the trends and new aspects of the evaluation, particularly around the teacher and provider supports, as well as aspects of parental trust and stakeholder satisfaction with their experience. So first I want to talk about teacher and provider supports at tuition assistance preschools, specifically the Teacher Promise Grant, which CPP offers to supplement teacher wages and to support retention and recruitment. So to date, CPP has supported 190 lead preschool teachers with at 89 tuition assistance providers with grants of up to $4,000. We also learned through surveys that 7 out of 8 recipients said that the grant had an impact on them staying with their employer, and 46% of providers have used the grant as a promotional or recruitment tool for hiring and retaining staff. And the qualitative feedback just further supports what we learned through the survey, with providers saying, my employee was contemplating obtaining additional employment, but the grant was able to supplement their income. It's helped with retention, and they're using it as an incentive. This slide looks at staff support funds, which CPP provides to quality improvement preschools to help recruit and retain quality staff as they work to move towards that high quality rating. To date, 95 staff have received a staff support fund, and quality improvement providers share that they're using those funds to impact wages and to provide benefits and support education for their staff. This slide looks at some insights that we learned from parents, teachers, and providers through those focus groups and surveys, which we'll dive into more in the following slides. But we learned that safety and trust are priorities for parents, and cost is a barrier to enrollment, but that tuition assistance is important to being able to enroll and access preschool. Some providers need support with technology around recruiting and enrolling new preschoolers, and preschoolers are saying that school makes them happy, and that satisfaction with Preschool Promise is continuing to increase among all stakeholders. So this slide captures just a few of the many positive comments that parents made about their CPP experience. And one parent said, I'm so grateful for Preschool Promise. Without this funding, my child would not be in preschool, much less one of the best preschools in the area. And there are a lot of more positive comments from parents included in the full report, so I would encourage you to take a look at that when you can. Teachers and providers also provided overwhelmingly positive feedback about their Preschool Promise experience, with one provider saying, It's been such a blessing to be part of this program, and my children also benefit from the grant funds when needed. Thanks again. So last year we learned that safety and trust are important to parents, and they consider those factors when making decisions about preschool enrollment. And it was important to the board to better understand trust and what it means to trust in a preschool provider. So we explored trust among prospective parents who are parents of preschool-age children within the Cincinnati Public Schools footprint who are not yet enrolled in preschool. And what we learned from them was that the top 3 ways that providers can build trust in them is by offering one-on-one meetings with teachers and directors, having a secure building, and safety policies. We also asked this question of tuition assistance for parents, and what we learned from them is that the top ways to gain their trust in providers is through opportunities to observe a classroom, meeting one-on-one with teachers and directors, and having an experienced provider. So during focus groups, parents also offered suggestions about ways to build their trust. And what they said was a live video feed, an open door policy, safety, communication, a fenced playground, a low child-teacher ratio, holding parent open houses and education nights for potential new parents and preschoolers to see the preschool, classroom observations to get a feel for the class and teachers, strong communication between school parents and teachers who create a loving environment and understand my child's needs. So when we think about enrolling new kids in preschool and attracting parents to preschools, it's important to know that many parents value physical safety as well as strong and ongoing communication with their child's teachers and providers. A new aspect of this year's evaluation was to understand if providers need support with preschooler recruitment and enrollment. And when you look in this table, the bold numbers are the areas where providers rated that those supports would be extremely helpful or very helpful recruitment and enrollment supports. And the development of an online application landed within the top 3 for all provider types. We also asked providers to estimate the amount of time that they could benefit from having supports with recruitment and enrollment. And some of the responses are here on the right side of the slide. And we see that some providers need a touch base, maybe a day, a couple hours, whereas others need multiple weeks and more in-depth support. Another new aspect of this year's evaluation was the preschooler survey, which was a survey to hear from CPP's youngest customer about what they think about school. And it was also an opportunity to allow CPP student interns to get involved in this year's evaluation. And so we have a short video to hear from Vivian and Shivan about their experience and their work on the preschool project. It's a pleasure to work with Vivian and Shivan. They're really great interns, and I'm glad that they had the opportunity to contribute to our evaluation. Before I move on, I just wanted to point out a few of the quotes from the preschoolers about their favorite thing about coming to school. With some of the kids saying they like to play with bubble machines and singing songs at circle time, playing with toys, dancing with their teacher. One student or classroom said they like playing on the playground, playing with their friends, getting a Minnie Mouse Band-Aid, writing in their journal. They like playing with their friends, doing science experiments, playing in the gym and block building with Legos in their kitchen, on the playground, making art for their family, writing in their journal. So overall, we see that the kids are really happy. They're enjoying playing with their friends and going to school. So it was nice to be able to include this year. On to satisfaction. We see here high levels of parent satisfaction among our TA parents with their preschool promise experience. So about 87% of respondents were highly satisfied with their preschool center options, tuition assistance, and the application process. And 73% were satisfied with their provider communication. And this result could have been impacted by all of the challenges that came with COVID, but CPP continues to support providers and offer them resources to make communication easier. We see here tuition assistance teachers and providers were highly satisfied with the supports that they received from Preschool Promise in the past year, with about 95% of providers being very highly satisfied with the staff support they received, 84.4% of providers and teachers being satisfied with step up to quality support, and 78% being satisfied with staff incentives and professional development. And we've been tracking this since 2020, and we've seen these numbers increase every year. So we know that CPP is very committed to supporting their teachers and providers. And these quotes just further support the satisfaction data that we've been looking at with providers talking about their satisfaction with their partnership with CPP, with providers saying, "You are doing a great job at being a great partner. I've enjoyed my partnership with CPP. CPP has helped my program in many ways to be successful. I look forward to continuing my partnership with CPP. My experience with CPP and the staff has been nothing but great. As a provider, I feel that it is CPP that has recognized our worth in early education and has supported that value in many ways. Thank you for all that you do, have done, and are willing to do." I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Mitchell for our wrap-up.
All right. So there are times when we as evaluators move from being that objective reporter to being the celebratory cheerleader, and that moment is now for me. So, and especially since it is Cincinnati Preschool Promise Day, this is a great day to celebrate on this slide. This slide represents not just 1 year's worth of work, but a body of work that everyone in this room has contributed to, and it is remarkable. So one thing I always say to my staff is we should always use very unbiased language, very objective language. We really take our role as evaluators very seriously. We do want to be very objective in reporting what's good, what's fair. But for this slide, I'm going to use terms that are very much in the positive and in the affirmative, because the numbers do speak for themselves. So over the past 5 years, it is remarkable that CPP has served, nearly 8,000 preschool children, and has processed, over 4,000 applications, which is a lot of work, for staff to work with other partners to coordinate that. Also, CPP has added 99 high-quality TA providers to the CPP provider network. Also, 91 QI providers have been converted to TA by earning a 3, 4, or 5 step-up to quality star rating. So all of this is super great work, including supporting 285 teachers through those teacher promise grants and the staff support funds that Aubrey mentioned. More than 1,100 preschoolers have participated in the extended learning sessions, and many of the children that have been served and that have measurably benefited from CPP are from those high-risk neighborhoods, which is so central to the mission and initial charter of CPP. And then, of course, CPP has launched the PD and Jam pilot, the ELS pilot, and other innovative solutions, the Rosie Reader pilot. I won't be able to name them all, but in various preschools and neighborhoods, including quality gap neighborhoods. And then finally, high levels of satisfaction among parents, teachers, and providers. So I think we should definitely, this is definitely worthy of a round of applause and very strong work to go on. And then I'm going to just end with the recommendations. We talked about some of these already, but they're very simple, but they're also just very, again, foundational to the work ahead. So continue program and supports that make a positive impact on parents, teachers, and providers, and of course, children. So 3 recommendations: consider an attendance pilot, consider expanding ELS program and/or peanut butter and jam, and then continue teacher promise grants and teacher supports. Continue expansion that focus on equity and quality gap neighborhoods, because we know that that's where kids are who need these services the most. Also define school readiness to include the whole child. So emotional, social, physical, cognitive, etc. We're already collecting a lot of some of that data in the preschool progress level, the preschool level, but continuing to round out that data in kindergarten and beyond. And then support ready schools and teachers that build trust with families. We have compelling data. We started to see that data last year, and Dr. Owens, I'm so glad that you challenged us to really look at that trust variable more. That is really essential to why parents may or may not decide to choose their kids to preschool, and it factors into whether or not parents may decide on a preschool or not. So I think really helping preschools create that ready environment where a parent will say, yes, I feel good about sending my child here. And it's not trust in the traditional way that we think of, which is, oh yeah, I feel good about this person. Trust now, given the world that we live in, includes that definition of safety. Safety is critical to that definition of trust. And I'm glad that the board challenged us to look further into how parents are thinking about trust, because we got some innovative data that I think other regions may not, that other regions can benefit from some of what we're learning. Developing resources for providers to recruit families. This was defined as a critical need by providers, that we kind of know what we need, but we don't really have the technical skills to get there. And they had some good ideas about co-branding, or hey, we just need a person on loan for a couple of hours to help us with our website, or whatever the case might be. But the technical, lack of technical capacity of centers is really challenging centers and providers and creating an additional barrier to their ability to serve families. And then intensifying teacher recruitment and retention efforts, which are needed for them to have the staff that they need, and also to create the pipeline as turnover might be a real issue for these centers. And I'm going to stop there and provide one additional opportunity for questions for myself, Peter, or Aubrey.
I have a comment.
My name is Vivian, and I'm a senior student at Indian Hill High School.
Hi, my name is Shiven Kakar, and I'm a senior at William Mason High School.
We were interns at the Cincinnati Preschool Promise team this summer for 10 weeks as data analysts. We had an amazing opportunity to be able to make connections and work with data for phase 1. We collected, sorted, processed, and entered 8,000 plus data points for coaching vendors, quality improvement funds like invoice and purchase orders, as well as coaching effort and tracking forms for 354 providers from time span from July 2017 to June 2022. We also helped to code the CPP Quarterly Coaching Report dashboard for quality improvement and tuition assistance providers. Altogether, this experience helped us to become more efficient and stronger communicators in transforming data into a story.
Overall, I would say that I had a great experience and I was able to learn a lot. My role mainly consisted of working on the Phase 1 Quality Improvement Project, which consisted of translating coaching and invoice data from PDF to Google Sheet form, designing forms for parents, providers, teachers, and coaches to fill out, and then also having the opportunity to work on the innovations team on the preschooler survey project, in which we received which is a new aspect of this year's evaluation. As part of the project, we received training from Dr. Aubrey Culp about data entry and Excel. For the project, we entered the preschooler survey data into Excel, and then we worked together with Vivian and Dr. Culp to talk about the data and summarize it. Our summary is shown here on the slide, and as you can see, our data points consisted of survey items such as if the student has a sister or brother, if they feel safe in school, if they feel happy and if they feel happy at school. I was able to learn a lot more about the practical applications of spreadsheets through this experience, and overall, I would say that it was great. Thank you.
Especially during COVID, especially even now. You know, if we need to do a deeper dive on something, I appreciate our relationship with CPP. I also appreciate our relationship with CPS. We've been highly collaborative in the evaluation process because I think we're all focused on how can we make the biggest impact possible. So thank you, Vera, and thank you, Sean.
As we look into next year, we start to get the first cohort at third grade